Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, just a quick recap. What are we all doing here? I started off this session a few months ago and titled as I Own My Life. So I own my life. To understand that I own my life, we said we will try to understand it through the lens of what the Bhagavad Gita says about how we should lead our life. When we work, how we must work. When we talk, how we must talk. When we think, what must be our thought process. When we feel, how is it that we need to respond. So the entire gamut of the kind of emotions, the thoughts, the actions that come across from us, how is it that they can benefit us? And ultimately, what is it that all of us want? None of us want to say that, no, 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 I want to be successful in my business, so then I will be happy. I want to be a good homemaker, then I will be happy. I want to be an excellent student, excelling in my exams, then I will be happy. But everywhere, the conditions that lead to the happiness are not important. The fact is that everybody wants to be only happy. I don't think we want anything more than that. Somebody will be happy with 100,000 rupees. Somebody will be happy with 100 rupees also. So the question is, it is not the means, but the fact that we want to be happy. So this is what we are all here for, to understand the entire process of how is it that we can be happy in whatever that we are doing, in the way we are working. So in the last session, we learned about how our body is a nine-gated fortress, and how, as a man of perfection, we don't allow our own vitality to be leaked through any of these nine gates. And we use our own talents to improve our own personality. And in doing so, we move closer to the highest principle, which is energizing every thought, every emotion, and every action of ours. The way we work, the way we speak, the way we think, the way we feel is determined by our own inclinations or our own tendencies or our own imprints, which is driven by the conditioning of our own past. So we can be wise, or those people are wise, who are able to understand this and work their own way towards their growth, because they are firm in the knowledge that every present that they are experiencing is determined by a past, and every future will be determined by whatever are our present actions. So this is what we sort of understood. Now I got two very interesting, I won't say questions, or maybe thoughts. Two interesting thoughts came to me. One is that there was an example I gave last time about how I, as a father, I was sitting in my hall reading a newspaper when my younger son was making a what do you call that? With his pack of cards, he was making a castle out of cards. And how, when he had almost reached the summit of completing the entire castle, my elder son came and he simply blew away on the entire house of cards, fell, collapsed, and how my younger son was crying, and how the elder son, mockingly or maybe naughtily, he was laughing and he ran away. And I was sitting there as a witness. So, question was asked, that was my attitude right? That should I have been just a witness because I used that example, or should I have interfered? Whether my parenting role requires me to interfere and say that, oh, elder brother, you did not do right. You should not have done that to your younger brother because he put in a lot of effort in making that. First, I want to clarify, I don't have two sons. I have only one son and one daughter. And this example is not live example from my life. This is just an example that I brought about. Let's understand the question that is being asked is it only that the tendencies or the inclinations of the elder one to try and destroy what the younger one is doing? Probably that is his inclination, that is his tendency. And the younger one to cry and weep and put up a tantrum because his effort was being destroyed by the elder one. Is that just their tendencies, or as a parent, is it required that we must correct it? Now, parenting is not only by action, parenting is by examples also. Can we say that in every action as a parent that we have done, we have set an example for our children? For example, we say, tell the children, don't talk bad about others. We tell the children, don't talk about other people, it is not good and all that. And then me and my wife, if we start gossiping about the neighbor, gossiping about somebody in the family, the child who's a small child, maybe he's playing, but he's observing what is happening to mommy and daddy. We tell the children, don't fight. It is not good to fight with your friends. And then at home, the husband and wife are always fighting. Now, what you're setting by example is far more impressionable on the child than what you can teach. Irrespective of whatever are the imprints or tendencies that we may have from our past or we may have cultivated, it is, as children, the imprints most importantly get firmed up in our mind by what we see from our parents. So it is how we portray ourselves that is more important than interfering. The witness attitude that I was mentioning in that example, that witness attitude is something that we all need to bring it in our own way of living, in the way we conduct ourselves. Because unless you become a witness to what is happening, you will get involved in everything, and it will either lead to your sorrow or your joy the way you want it. And these are really typically not sanskaras. Like, a question was asked whether these are sanskaras. These are not sanskaras. Sanskaras are what we teach. For example, we teach children good behavior. We teach children how they need to work, etc., etc., how they need to dress. This is what we teach. But imprints are invisible ones. The imprints that I'm talking about, the tendencies that I'm talking about, they are invisible ones. It's not something invariably which is taught. It could be something which is acquired from seeing somebody else. It's not necessarily what the parents are bringing about. So we cannot, we cannot use that as a way of understanding. Another question that came across was whether internal change is determined by external influences. The question was whether if the external influences are very stronger than the pressure of my own internal state of mind, the change wouldn't happen. Now, which means that we are building on the premise that a change within occurs because there are influences from outside. But does the impetus really need to come from outside or inside? That I need to change is something which should come from within me. It cannot come from an experience that is happening outside. Yes, they can have, what can I say, they can have an impression on me. They can have an influence on me. They can have an inspiration on me. But it is really not that which is causing me to change. Ultimately, a change must happen because within me, I am first wanting to change and two, willing to change. I think this is what is important. So the external influences, strength of the external influences, to my mind, is not as critical as your own internal commitment that you want to change for your own improvement, for your own growth. So I will take the session forward with now dealing with verse, or rather playing verse 14 to 21, which is continuing from where we left off.
न कर्तृत्वं न कर्माणि लोकस्य सृजति प्रभुः न कर्मफलसंयोगं स्वभावस्तु प्रवर्तते नादत्ते कस्यचित् पापं न चैव सुकृतं विभुः अज्ञानेनावृतं ज्ञानं तेन मुह्यन्ति जन्तवः ज्ञानेन तु तदज्ञानं येषां नाशितमात्मनः तेषामादित्यवज्ञानं प्रकाशयति तत्परम् तद्बुद्धयस्तदात्मानस्तन्निष्ठास्तत्परायणाः गच्छन्त्य पुनरावृत्तिं ज्ञाननिर्धूतकल्मषाः विद्याविनयसम्पन्ने ब्राह्मणे गविहस्तिनि शुनि चैव श्वपाके च पण्डिताः समदर्शिनः इहैव तैर्जितः सर्गो येषां साम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्मात् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थिताः न प्रहृष्येत् प्रियं प्राप्य नोद्विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियम् स्थिरबुद्धिरसम्मूढो ब्रह्मविद्ब्रह्मणि स्थितः बाह्यस्पर्शेष्वसक्तात्मा विन्दत्यात्मनि यत् सुखम् स ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखमक्षयमश्नुते.
So now let us understand this. Our standpoint is that, or our understanding is that, it is the life principle, it is that consciousness, it is the energy which is enlivening everything. It is that light of consciousness which is making everything function. That is our standpoint, that is what we have understood so far. But let us understand it from the standpoint of that life principle, of that life energy, of that consciousness itself. It doesn't do anything. Consciousness by itself does not do anything. That energy by itself does not do anything. It just is. It just is being. So, in Tamil, there is this, those who know Tamil, they will know this. Shivane Niren. I mean, when the children are making mischief, they will say Shivane Niren. Basically, what it means is that why can't you keep quiet? Because that keep quiet, Shiva is the embodiment of being quiet, of being in meditation, being in calmness always. Idea being that why can't you remain calm? So the life principle is itself has got nothing to do. It just is. It doesn't do anything. So supposing somebody, I'll give you an example. Somebody is doing something great for us. Like for example, that somebody in our family is very unwell and we do not know where to take them. And that person comes, "Arey, don't worry, I will take you to the right place, the right doctor, the right hospital. They will ensure that you are treated well and then you're not ripped off, etc., etc." And they take us there. And our family member is treated there and comes out soon. Now, we are very grateful to them for having done something so, nice for us. But they say, "What? I knew, I did." So the point is that life principle is like that. Something great is done, but okay, I didn't do it. It is there. You wanted it to be done. It's not that I wanted to do it or something like that. Oh, I realized you were in difficulty. I just happened to know this and I did it. That's the standpoint of that life principle itself. So it just energizes. Like the sun which gives energy, but never bothers how we use that energy. It just is. Like for example, we had a recent example of my son. He has a cat and then he rescued a street cat because it was famished, and then he brought it home. 2 days he looked after that cat and then he wanted to give it away because he didn't want 2 cats. Then he was in disturbance yesterday because he did not get anybody to adopt the second cat and he himself did not want to keep it. He was in a lot of distress. Today morning he called up and said that he had been to the gym and somebody in the gym was already looking after 2 cats and he didn't mind taking up the third cat also. So now he was happy. So the point is that at the end of the day, your quality that you have in you, it is that quality which makes you do something good. But you also see some children throwing a stone at a dog because the dog is barking, etc., etc. So that's also the quality that you have in you. It could be because of the fear of that child that the dog should not come and bite. But then that quality in that child was to throw a stone at the dog. So these are all qualities. But the principle inside, behind all this is the same everywhere. So in that perspective, when we look at it, the Lord is not making us do anything. He is just there as our life principle. We go wherever we go. We do whatever we do. We think whatever we think. Determined by our own tendencies, our own inclinations, our own imprints. But even these imprints, these inclinations cannot manifest in us without the life principle energizing them. So the changes we need to make are actually those within our own personality. Let us take an example. In clean water, the sun reflects clearly. In muddy water, it appears to be colored. In a bucket full of still water, it is absolutely let's say in a bucket full of water where it is rippling, the sun appears to be rippled. Whereas in a still water lake, it is still. But the sun by itself is still. It is clear. It does not shake. Consciousness by itself is still. It is clear. The bumpiness, the ripples, etc. are created by the personality layers within each of us. I will show that with a slide example. So here is the reflection of the sun on a body of water which is muddy. Now the sun's reflection you can see in the white, but it is still appearing muddy because there is muddiness already in the water. Now this is the same sun reflecting on a ripple of water across an ocean. Because of the ripples, the sun looks to be having its own ripples. And whereas when we come to the third example, here we have a still lake in which the sun's reflection along with the clouds is seen absolutely crystal clear with absolutely no shaking. So this is exactly how our personality is. Dependent on our personality, the consciousness will reflect the way it is. It is our ignorance that we believe that it is the Lord who gives, the Lord who takes away. We in fact sometimes even at the place where we work, we believe that someone above us in the hierarchy is the one who actually ensures that we are taken care, or he will destroy our future, etc., etc. Because ignorance has covered our own understanding of the true reality of what is that highest principle itself. The word that is used here in the Gita is ajnanen avritam jnanam, that is by ignorance. Ignorance is the one which is covering the knowledge. Therefore, we get confused, we get deluded. If you go back to that BMI chart which I had shown earlier, if you see this, we work with the body, mind, and intellect. Through the body, we perceive our objects. Through the mind, we feel our emotions. Through the intellect, we think our thoughts. But the Om principle which is above, which is that life principle that is energizing everything, that is unconditioned by any of this. The imprints that we have, the inclinations we have, the tendencies that we have here in which are called our vasanas, I'm sorry, they are the ones which determine how we act at a given moment. So we invariably seem to look down upon those objects, those emotions, those thoughts. That is what we are looking at. Whereas all we need to do is shift our vision higher, and automatically we see that it is that principle which is energizing everything that we are experiencing. So many times we ourselves don't know our own true ability until a teacher comes or an inspiration comes to throw light on our own abilities. And then we excel in whatever we do. The vision of our own ability was blurred by our own self-belief in our own limitations. So we believed that our limitations were true rather than our abilities to be true. So, and we didn't see the highest in the abilities that we could probably achieve by our own effort. This is actually the reason why many of us remain mediocre and only a few of us excel. And we think that they are great. But they are the ones who were in a position to move away from their own limitations, understand what is the highest in their own ability, and work towards that, believing always that there is an invisible principle which is energizing everything that I am doing. So why is it that I cannot excel? So we always tell children also, in teachers also are fond of saying this, that work towards excellence, don't work towards perfection. When you work towards excellence, perfection is a byproduct. So this is exactly what we are also told here. Now let us take an example again. That nowadays the weather is very cold, but assume that you are on a clouded day, very cloudy day, very cloudy, very dark and dreary. We feel dull because the climate is like that. We feel dull. The visibility is also poor. Now slowly, as the silver rays of the sun appears from behind the clouds, our mind feels a little energized suddenly, because there is some light. We see everything a little more clearer. Similarly, when we get a little knowledge about something, it could be any subject, we are able to remove our own cloud of ignorance a little of that subject. So obviously, like how the clouds move away and the sun appears fully, when we get the knowledge of that highest reality, we see our own life principle working with us, in its full brilliance, if I would say so. Again, I would use a slide to explain that a little better. So here we see the clouds. Dark clouds are actually there, and we are seeing the silver lining from behind the clouds. So we know that the sun is gradually going to come. When this happens, we feel a little better. But how are we able to see the clouds itself? That there are clouds. How are we able to see that? We are able to see the clouds itself because there is the light of sun which is behind the clouds. Otherwise, we could even not see the clouds. So even our own ignorance is possible to be seen or experienced by us, because there is this life principle, there is this light of consciousness which is enlightening our own ignorance. We are the best witnesses of our own stupidity. And foolish are we that we cannot see our own brilliance. I can bring across this in another slide. This is from the movie Circus, a Charlie Chaplin movie. See this. Now here he is in a maze of mirrors. He is seeing himself in that maze of mirrors, and he's seeing that, thinking probably that he's being attacked or somebody else is there in the room. It's a beautiful depiction of what happens to most of us. We don't see our own brilliance, we don't see the best in us, and we are clouded by the imagery of what we see around us. And in that cloud, in that ignorance, we are not able to see our own brilliance clearly. This is what I just wanted to bring across this point. So once we identify that it is this consciousness, it is this life principle that is illumining me as well as every other living being, I have only love for everyone. And everything around me, I am in love with. Just like how we love music, we love the birds, we love the flowers, we manifest our own love to our fellow beings also. I am reminded of a Yeshudas song, not a very popular song, but it's a very beautiful, meaningful song. कौन है ऐसा जिसे फूलों से, गीतों से, पंछियों से प्यार न हो, प्यार के बिना पूरा कोई श्रृंगार न हो, कौन है ऐसा जिसे फूलों से, गीतों से, पंछियों से प्यार न हो. So this love can be manifested only when you recognize that you are no different from anybody in this world. Can I understand this one thing from all of us? I am present equally in every part of my body. Whether it is my hand, whether it is my leg, whether it is my eye, whether it is my nose, head, I permeate each of them in equal measure. I love each part of the body equally. Of course, there are some people who are very fond of the stomach because they are very fond of their tongue, because they are very fond of food. And then there are some people who are very fond of their eyes, because with their eyes they keep on seeing something or the other in Netflix or Hotstar or Prime Video, etc., etc. But that apart, I permeate every part of my body equally. And each of these parts together is me, myself. When one finger goes into my eye by mistake, I am doing something, I'm combing my hair and my finger goes into my eye. Do I punish the finger? You went and poked my eye? No. All the 5 fingers come together and they go and rub the eye. And the eye also says, okay, I'm okay. And then after some time, the hand comes away. So we permeate every part of our body. But assume for a moment that you're going on a walk. You and your wife are going out for a walk. And by mistake, your nail went and hit her hand. And she got hurt. Obviously, she must have got scratched. And she says, what is this? You can't cut your nails. You're hurting me. He didn't mean to hurt you. It's just that his nail was long and then he hit you by mistake. But then that is the immediate reaction you get, even with somebody as close as your husband and wife. So you understand that when it is somebody other than me hurting any part of me, I feel offended. But even if I hurt myself, I excuse myself. I say, okay, it is all right. I forgive you. I will go ahead. This is, of course, there are many people who don't forgive themselves, but this is how you need to understand. So wise are those people who look at everyone equally with love and with humility, irrespective of whether it is a man, whether it is an animal, whether it is an insect, whether it is a flower, whether the other person is a king or an outcast. How does it matter? Because behind all these differentiations, they always see that it is that life principle, it is that consciousness which is manifesting in those differences also. So then why is it that I need to look at that person differently? When I recognize myself in all the names and forms outside. For example, if I say, okay, you are my friend, you are Ramesh, you are from my school, and he is Dinesh, he is from my college, he is Sanjay, he is from my office. Different names, different positions, different forms. But if I recognize that I am no different from any of them, I know that forms and names are just different forms of me alone. Me meaning what? That self, that life principle, that consciousness, which is there in you, which is there in me, it is the same which is everywhere. The outer coverings, the personality is different. The names and forms are different. But the inner essence is one and the same. If I recognize that, then I will have only love for everybody. I am reminded of a song that I took up in our recent show. The words more or less sort of, convey this meaning. जानम देख लो मिट गई दूरियां मैं यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ कैसी सरहदें कैसी मजबूरियां मैं यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ. So there are no boundaries. There are no compulsions because ultimately it is the same principle which is permeating through different forms, different names. It is ultimately me and me alone. How do I give you this as an example? We all know there is this franchise manufacturing facility for many products. For example, there are many people who have franchise manufacture for chocolates. They make different kinds of chocolates, different kinds of candy, but they make it for different companies. Parle will come, they will say, I want a chocolate, they will make for Parle also. Five Star, Cadbury will come, Cadbury also, they will make that. The manufacturer's facility is available for different brands of chocolates to be manufactured in that factory because those brands don't want manufacture, they want to rather market the label. So this we understand. But the essence in all of them is that chocolate. The essence is that candy. And this happens with generic medicines also. Many generic medicines are made by franchise manufacturers, mostly vitamins, common drugs, etc. They are made by franchise manufacturers. Even in the label packing itself, you will see marketed by or probably sold by, etc. Paris or any other company for that matter, and manufactured by somebody, Suresh, Ramesh, Dinesh, etc., etc. So the franchise manufacturers are making the same product in their factory in different names, in different packaging. The essence is the same everywhere. So different makers, different labels. I think one of the best examples in the COVID times that we can remember is Dolo 650. Now, Dolo 650 is something which has become the most famous paracetamol during COVID-19. Any doctor, anybody walking, talking, anybody across, he says, I am feeling very symptoms that, probably I may be COVID positive. Take Dolo 3 times a day. Dolo 650 has become like a, like how you eat potato wafers, you start eating Dolo 650. Now, the same paracetamol was given by, in childhood, we had a doctor by name Dr. Vishwanathan. He used to put it into one plastic pouch containing, tablets of different colors, pink, blue, white. The white was paracetamol, and then he used to give it. They had this once in the morning, once in the afternoon, once in the evening. Same thing was there then also. And then many years later, we had this crocin and metacin. Crocin and metacin used to be there. After some time, metacin went out of the market. Then crocin remained for a long time. Now the most famous brand is Dolo 650. In fact, recently when we were returning from Bangalore, we halted at Belgaum and I wanted to buy some syrup or something. And so I went to the medical shop. That guy had about 200, 300 tablets of Dolo 650, some vitamin B capsule, some way on the table. I was thinking probably material which must have come for delivery from the supplier. But then somebody was coming, Saab Bukhare, acha ye lo, 4 Dolo, 4 B complex, savere khane ka, sham ko khane ka, 2 din khao, theek ho jayega. So this has become like, the famous, most famous, the personality of that paracetamol is now known by name of Dolo 650. So once we know that the paracetamol is of the same potency, will cure you of that fever or whatever it is, we can have anyone, whatever the medical shop gives. So Dolo 650 became the personality that became famous. So pure consciousness is that underlying principle, that paracetamol. The wrappers, the names, the manufacturers, the geography in which it is being sold, they are the ones which decide who becomes famous, what becomes famous, whose personality is more vibrant. That is what it decides. The essence is the same. It is like old wine in new bottle. I'll share another slide for you to understand that a little differently. See this. Now this is the same wine in 4 different bottles. One is 1950, 1963, 1984, 2001. Let us imagine that in 2001 somebody was born. That guy is now shown as probably 2021 and he's happy and smiling. The guy born in 84 probably is about 40 now. A little becoming a little older and a little worried. The guy who's born in 63, he's now nearing 60. He's looking haggardly old and confused. And the guy who was not born in 1950, he's now 70 plus. He looks like he's just waiting for his end or whatever it is, or maybe worried about his health, whatever it is. But the essence in all of them is the same. It is that life principle which is running through all of them. Personalities are different, their abilities are different, their present condition is different, but the life principle is the same in all of them. This is what I just want to bring across. The river that is flowing merges with the ocean when they meet each other. The waters of the river and the waters of the ocean, they become one and the same. The underlying principle in both bodies is water, and that water merges with the larger canvas. It could happen, I am talking about the river and ocean, it could happen with the simple thing as the gutter of our building. It goes into the municipal sewage system. From the municipal sewage system in Bombay, it goes to Mithi River. From Mithi River, it goes to some treatment plant. From there, it is put into the stream of river or maybe into the ocean. The name of the river or the name of that water body from which it traveled for many miles is lost when it goes and merges with the canvas of the ocean, the larger canvas of the ocean. And the ocean, we call in the shores of Bombay, in the western side, we call it Arabian Sea. Down below, when we go to Kerala, we call it Indian Ocean. When we go to Calcutta, we call it the Bay of Bengal. But ultimately, all of them also lose their name when they merge with the ocean in general. Now, you can call them geographical names. Ultimately, it is the same water body of the larger canvas. It is just the movement of consciousness from one form and name to another form and name, and always remembering that the supreme identity of that one and only one life principle which is everywhere. So once we understand this, we become a man of perfection. The Sthita Prajna, if you remember, I had mentioned about this name Sthita Prajna long ago in, I think, when we were discussing with chapter 2. In pleasant situations, that guy does not jump around in ecstasy, a pleasant situation. Nor does he go to the depths of his sadness when unpleasant things occur. He takes both the situations, both the experiences, because they are experiences of this body, of this mind, of this intellect, this apparatus, which is momentary as per the present life situation. And it will change in time because he knows that it will change in time. He is like that bottle of whiskey. I was asked by my wife today, why you always bring this drinks ka example? I don't know why. Probably it's also because Gurudev also used to bring this example many times. So I have heard this many times. I am a teetotaler, but he's like that bottle of whiskey. Even when liquor is there in it, he does not get intoxicated by the present life situation. Can you see, have you ever seen a bottle of whiskey with so much of whiskey inside it dancing? It doesn't dance. But the moment 4 pegs go inside somebody, he starts dancing left and right. So because he knows that this will fade away under the morning sun. Even after 4, if I'm dancing under the morning sun, it will fade away. Whatever is the experience, whether it is good or bad, it will fade away. So he is not affected by whatever is the experience that he is facing. He is like that bottle of whiskey. I am reminded of that Kishore Kumar song on the same point. नशा शराब में होता तो नाचती बोतल, नशे में कौन नहीं है मुझे बताओ जरा, नशे में कौन नहीं है मुझे बताओ जरा, लोग कहते हैं मैं शराबी हूं. So this is what happens. No, we start thinking for a To a teetotaler, whiskey will not have any impact. To a drunkard, it is prasadam. When will you give it to me? You know, this example of Rama, I think Rama's life is a classic example of how you should lead life. Previous night, he was told that tomorrow morning you are going to be coronated as the king. He got ready in the morning, had a bath and all, got ready, and he was about to go for the coronation as a king. Then his second mother comes and she says, your father had promised me long ago that, you know, he will give me a boon. I have asked him for a boon, and the boon is that my son will become the king of the kingdom, and you will go for 14 years to the forest in exile. If you want, you can cross check that with your father. He says, why should I cross check with my father? You have told me that is sufficient. He went inside, removed those robes. He came back with whatever is his clothes for going as a sannyasi, went to the jungle. In both situations, he was equipoised. You're making me king. Fine. Oh, you're sending me to the forest. Fine. That is the kind of attitude that we are talking about. Of course, we can't be like that. But then that is the attitude that we are talking about building within ourselves. So now we will play verse 22 to 29, which is reaching to the end of chapter 5.
ये हि संस्पर्शजा भोगा दुःखयोनय एव ते आद्यन्तवन्तः कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधः शक्नोति हैव यः सोढुं प्राक्शरीरविमोक्षणात् कामक्रोधोद्भवं वेगं स युक्तः स सुखी नरः योऽन्तः सुखोऽन्तरारामस्तथान्तर्ज्योतिरेव यः स योगी ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ब्रह्मभूतोऽधिगच्छति लभन्ते ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं ऋषयः क्षीणकल्मषाः छिन्नद्वैधायतात्मानः सर्वभूतहिते रताः कामक्रोधवियुक्तानां यतीनां यतचेतसाम् अभितो ब्रह्मनिर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनाम् स्पर्शान् कृत्वा बहिर्बाह्यांश्चक्षुश्चैवान्तरे भ्रुवोः प्राणापानौ समौ कृत्वा नासाभ्यन्तरचारिणौ यतेन्द्रियमनोबुद्धिर्मुनिर्मोक्षपरायणः विगतेच्छाभयक्रोधो यः सदा मुक्त एव सः भोक्तारं यज्ञतपसां सर्वलोकमहेश्वरम् सुहृदं सर्वभूतानां ज्ञात्वा मां शान्तिमृच्छति ॐ तत्सदिति श्रीमद्भगवद्गीतासु उपनिषत्सु ब्रह्मविद्यायां योगशास्त्रे श्रीकृष्णार्जुनसंवादे संन्यासयोगो नाम पञ्चमोऽध्यायः.
So what is it that we should do? Then how should we be? We are told that we should not run after external contacts. So a man of perfection who's equipoised like this, he should not be running after external contacts. He will just allow those external contacts to come to him, depending on whatever is the present life situation that he has. How do I explain it? Like, for example, now the external contact I'm having is that I'm talking to you. Because the external contact is that I'm talking to you, I am here, I am talking, you are there, and you are listening, you are watching whatever it is that you are doing. So because the situation is like that, we are now into that contact. It is not that I am running after this contact. We have fixed the date, Saturday 5 to 6. Now 5 to 6 on Saturday, it is my discipline that I must do it. For you also it is a discipline. 5 to 6 on Saturday, I must listen to this. So this discipline is what is making us contact each other at this time, at this hour, for this purpose. But we are not running after it. We wait. When it comes, so we are not seeking anything in that manner. Yes, we are seeking knowledge. We are seeking to grow. So whatever is the duty that is available to be done at this point of time, he is doing it. He is not attached to any external contacts. He is just happy and contented, having gained the knowledge, and he has contacted the life principle which is energizing everything. I want to bring one very famous example. We all know about this word eureka. Eureka. We must have heard of it. As children also we have heard it. Now this is Archimedes. Now I'll just bring across the slide of Archimedes here. Now this is Archimedes. The story itself of Eureka. I have found it. Now what does it refer to? King Heron. He had a goldsmith who made a crown for him. Now he was not sure whether the goldsmith has palmed off some gold from it. So he called Archimedes. Find out if this crown is really pure gold or not, but don't damage it. Now Archimedes is confused. He says, I don't know how. I'm sorry. I don't know how to do this. So I will take a bath first. He goes to his tub. And there when he goes, he realized that his body is displacing water. And then he realized that immerse a piece of gold with the same weight in the water, measure how much of gold has been displaced from that water, then immerse the crown. And if it displaces a different quantity of water, it is not pure gold. So the king says, oh, that's a very clever thing, but please put on your pants. So the point is, somewhere within himself, when he was not knowing what he was doing, by being a witness to the observation of what happens to that crown when he was in that bathtub, he realized. So he was not working to find anything. He allowed his intellect and his ability to find the answer by just being. That's what we are trying to bring across here. So just by being, your own ability, your own capability can give you answers which you are otherwise your intellectual process of thinking or your emotional process of feeling, etc., may not be able to give you those answers as easily as this does. So just be. Just that being is all that you need to do. So a question that comes across is this worthwhile to live like that? No, that's a doubt. Who wants to live desireless, like a robo, dry and boring? Who wants to live like that? But we realize that when that experience of that infinite principle dawns on us, like that Archimedes principle, we realize that happiness, which we have been seeking outside through our actions, is now our inner state. No matter what we are doing, we are ready and capable of doing many things that our talents allow us. Yet we don't carry the anxiety of success or failure or even of acceptance, of what we are doing. So I just want to give another example, again a personal example. I mentioned last time that we had a music show last week in the honor of, to commemorate our children's wedding. So I entertained a desire. This is all hypothetical. I entertained a desire that my music show must be a success. I could have been anxious that it must come out very well. For 2 months, as I was preparing, I may have been agitated also that everything must come out very well. Now with all the effort of everybody, mine, Rajni's and my entire teams, at the end of the show, when I learnt that it was a super success, probably I would have been overjoyed in happiness. The agitation which was there has ended and I get a small exposure to the happiness which is my own inner nature, and it is illumined by my own consciousness. Now imagine what would be my state if I am always in that state of happiness. Now this is not governed by any finite experience or any desire. It is not chosen by my desires. I want to be always in that state of happiness. What would be my case if that is the case? Then I am not driven by any desire. It is not driven by any kind of choice that I make. It is just there, being by itself. But our problem, you know what it is? Our problem is that we seek finite joys. We want, now I want, I had a cup of coffee just before the class started. There was a finite joy. Ah, wonderful. That coffee was superb. We seek like that finite joys, and which sows the seeds of our own sorrows in future. Imagine for a moment that that coffee was not so nice. What happens? Immediately as I sipped it, I said, the coffee was not nice. Now I have created a sorrow because till I get a good cup of coffee, now I have created a sorrow within myself. So I sought a finite joy with a cup of coffee, which I got. But if I hadn't got, I would have said, oh, I have not got that. Then I start agitating about getting a good cup of coffee. So By the time my show had ended, I desired for another show or another project. Hypothetical again. By the time the show has ended, everything was nice. I desired for another show or some other project. Now I am overjoyed if that succeeds, and I am dejected if that fails. And when it is successful, I further desire something new. So I keep on putting new desires on me. I had a coffee, then I will say I will want a batata vada, and then after that I will say I want a missile. No, I keep on adding one after the other until that is fulfilled. I am in agitation, and if it is not fulfilled up to my satisfaction, I am disturbed. So every corner, every turn in my life, I am seeking on adding new desires, and I just keep on going in that direction. I am reminded of a song by what is his name? Udit Narayan from Gadar. मैं निकला गड्डी लेके ओ रस्ते पर ओ सड़क में एक मोड़ आया मैं उथे दिल छोड़ आया एक मोड़ आया मैं उते दिल छोड़ आया. What is happening? Every turn I am dropping my own heart in a new desire. As I keep on traveling, new desire, I keep on adding. And these are pleasures which come and go. They cannot be equated with happiness, which is a state of mind. The happiness which we reach through our own self-effort, forgetting our own personality, forgetting our personality identification, that is that happiness which always remains with us. So obviously there will be a question. Am I capable of being like that? I am such a useless fellow. How can I be possibly so pure? It's impossible, isn't it? So the lesson that is given to us here is that even once, before the death of this physical body, even once, if we can withstand this surge of desire-induced anger. What do you mean by desire-induced anger? Desire-induced anger is that I desire something. For example, I desired my vada pav. I go there and I find that that fellow has closed for today, or that there is a crowd of 100 people around him. I am angry because I am not able to enter. That 100 people who are standing there, because of that I am not able to enter. My desire not being fulfilled created an anger in me, and which is now destroying my own internal personality, which is disintegrating my own personality. If I am able to conquer that, if I am able to withstand that surge even once, you are a true yogi who can claim that he is always happy. How can you be happy like that? Because once you do this, once you know that अरे ठीक है आज crowd है कल ले लेंगे, doesn't matter. कल संकष्टी है कल नहीं खा सकते, ठीक है परसों खाएंगे, doesn't matter. Now once you are able to do that, it's not that you are not having the desire. The desire is there, but you are in a position to integrate your mind and intellect and say that okay, the desire can be fulfilled later. Not a great thing. I don't need to get angry. I don't need to get disturbed. I don't need to get agitated. Then only you can be happy. We must revel in whatever we do. The example is that supposing there is a musician or a painter and they revel in their music and painting. Today morning, I had a music class and I was telling my student that the best form of the best singing that will come is when you forget that you are doing it for somebody else. The moment you think that you are going to sing for somebody else, your effort becomes to please somebody else. But you just change that and think that I am doing it for my inner joy. Suddenly you revel in what we are doing. You are doing it for yourself. Now in the sports arena, what happens is we are competing with somebody else. In whatever sport that we are playing, we are competing with somebody else. So when we are reveling in what we are doing, we get lost in the work that we are doing. Whereas when we are in a sport, we enjoy the success or we are disappointed or dejected at the loss. In the former case, we are expressing our innermost joy through the work of art that we are doing. So how is it that we must work? We can become an artist while we are pursuing the sports called life. Life itself is a sport. So we have been told that, it's a sport. You play it. So we can become an artist reveling in whatever we are doing and yet playing it like a sport. So what if I win? So what if I lose? I am just reveling in what I am doing. That's the attitude that we need to bring about. So when we become like this, automatically we are thinking about everyone's happiness, not about our limited happiness. We share our special abilities with others through our own work as if it's a piece of art. So our joy becomes the joy of others who enjoy the benefit of the work that we do. Now this, in whatever high sounding spiritual language, it is called nirvana. Now what is nirvana? Vana means flames. You understand the character of flames? Flames will keep going like this, like this, like this. It's never steady. It just keeps on shaking. It is always like this. Nirvana is the absence of flames. So flames represent agitations of our mind. Nirvana means the one who has ended all the agitations of the mind, and he has reached that experience where he understands that it is this life principle which is running through every action of mine, every thought of mine, and that whenever I am working it for the simple inner joy of what I am doing, like an artist. So wise are those people who have learned this art of looking inwards within themselves and keep a watch or become a witness of their own feelings and thoughts. They have learned the art of balancing whatever they take in from the world outside. Taking in from the world outside, we invariably think that, taking in or consuming, we seem to think that it is only consuming with the mouth. Taking in with your eyes, whatever you see. Taking in with your ears, whatever you hear. Taking in with your nose, whatever you smell. Taking in with your tongue, whatever you taste. Taking in with your touch, your hand, whatever you touch. With our senses, whatever we take in from the world, when we give it out to the world, through whatever is our actions, through whatever is our speech, through whatever is our responses, through our experiences that we come across, if we are able to learn this art of knowing this life principle running through that, we remain balanced. So the principle that we need to understand is we have to unmask ourselves. Unmask? Today? Impossible. I have to wear a mask when I go down. The highest principle, the highest reality that we are talking about, this life principle which is energizing everything that we are doing, is actually expressing through us, through this body, through this mind, through this intellect. It is coming to you now at the moment through my speech, which is a part of my body, through the kind of thoughts which are coming to my mind, which is my mind, and through the thoughts that are rationalized with my intellect and saying what I should say, what I should not say, what words I must use, what words I must not use, that rational intellect, this integration is expressing through this body mind intellect apparatus, but it is that life principle which is running through all of that. So what is happening to us now? We are masking ourselves with our own personality. Our personality layer, I am thinking that I am Suresh the talker, I am talking to you, and you are so and so the listener. Now this personality layer is masking ourselves. So we have to move away from today's market reality where we have to wear a mask and go out. We have to unmask ourselves. We have to unmask our personality and connect with that higher self, which is that consciousness, and that is called as Sarvaloka Maheshwara. In this last part, they are using that word. Now, I'll give you an example. I'm a small employee in a company. I'm assistant manager. I report to a manager, manager reports to an AVP, AVP to a VP, VP to a general manager to senior general manager to ED, ED to MD, MD to chairman. I have no way of meeting the chairman. I have no business to meet the chairman. Unless I go to an annual event where the chairman is on the dais, I'm at the last row. I have no way of meeting him. Correct? I have no way of meeting the chief minister of my state. I can sit here in my room and then complain about whatever my chief minister is doing, or good or bad, whatever he is doing. I can talk about that. But I have no way of meeting the chief minister. I have no way of meeting the prime minister of my country because they are too big and I'm too small a fry that I have no way of meeting. But here there is a method which is given that we can meet the Lord of Lords, who is the Lord of even the chief minister, of that prime minister, of my owner, everybody, which is that Sarvaloka Maheshwara, because he is a friend for everyone. He is a friend for you, he is a friend for me, he is a friend for all those, everybody in the world, every living being in the world, he is a friend. And He is always available. It is only that we have to learn the art of connecting with Him in whatever work that we do, understanding that He is that principle which is energizing everything that is happening around us. So with these words, I will end my talk for today. And if there are anything that you want to say, most welcome. Yeah, Namrata ji, I read your message. Children learn from do as I do and not do as I say. Perfectly right. Because children learn only from that. We have to tell children by our actions, not by our words. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.